Calming your overthinking mind is actually something that happens in the brain and the body, not the mind. You literally can't think your way out of overthinking. The only way to overcome analysis paralysis is to address the real problem at the source. In this video, I am going to break down for you what is happening in the brain and the body so you can finally calm your overactive mind and take action towards your goals. I am a trauma-informed peak performance coach, and I use applied neuroscience to help people overcome their trauma that's been holding them back so they can finally unleash their full potential. I talk a lot about goals with my clients and what's holding them back. And the three most common obstacles people face are, number one, they don't have enough time. Between work and family obligations and good old adulting, they don't have enough hours left in the day to work on their goals. Number two, they don't have the money or access to the right resources to get started. And I get it. Honestly, just surviving is expensive. And when you're dealing with trauma, it can always feel like a piece of the puzzle is missing. Number three, they say that they don't know how, or that they need more information before they can get started. And this is a big one, and it's where most overthinkers get stuck. Now, you may have experienced any of these or all of them, but these aren't really the real reasons you're stuck. And it's not your fault. It's actually your brain lying to you. Fear is the number one killer of dreams. It's the reason you haven't achieved your goals. It's the reason you don't finish projects. It's the reason you procrastinate and avoid hard things. And it's the reason you overthink and over-strategize and try to control every detail. Overthinking and analysis paralysis are not just procrastination. Actually, a lot of the time we use procrastination as a tool to actually get things done. When we are unmotivated or uninspired to do the thing, we put it off until not doing the thing will cause us pain. In other words, procrastination is about motivating ourselves with fear. So I recently did a video on procrastination and fear and how to overcome it. And if you want to understand more about that, I will put a link in the description. But in this video, I want to go a little bit deeper and share with you exactly what is happening in the brain when the problem is more than just procrastination. Analysis paralysis, or overthinking, is the exact opposite of procrastination. It's wanting to do the thing, or at least wanting the outcome that doing the thing will provide us, but literally an inability to take action towards doing the thing. So instead of taking action, we think about all the steps we have to take. We obsess over every detail and come up with a 37-step color-coded contingency plan until we overwhelm ourselves and we find ourselves frozen, taking no action, and oftentimes shaming ourselves in the process. If you saw my last video, I shared part of my story on how overthinking nearly got me killed. And you should check that out because I share a perfect example of how being completely paralyzed to take action, even when that action could have potentially saved my life. I want to talk about how this shows up in our everyday lives too, not just in life and death scenarios. So things like staring at a menu for 30 minutes because there are too many choices and not enough pictures, canceling plans with friends at the last minute because the 6 outfits you tried on aren't perfect, not posting your vacation pictures because you're worried about who might see them and what they might be saying about you. Have you ever heard of bill pay anxiety? This is where you literally ignore your bills because catastrophizing thoughts invade your head, even when in reality you can afford to pay them. Not answering emails or phone calls because you don't know what to say, and the big one, not starting that YouTube channel, launching that business, or working on your goals because you think you don't have enough time, money, or resources. Now, I am not going to shame you by telling you that you have the same amount of hours in the day that Beyonce, Oprah, or Taylor Swift have, or to remind you that J.K. Rowling was lonely and poor when she wrote Harry Potter in a coffee shop with a baby on her lap. Yes, these are feel-good success stories, and for some people, they are inspirational, maybe even a little motivational, but they aren't going to help you thaw out your thoughts and get out of the freeze response that's happening in your brain. Overthinking, or analysis paralysis, isn't just laziness and procrastination. It's actually an overactive fear response in the brain. That's why motivational quotes and inspirational stories don't actually help. You have probably heard of the fight, flight, freeze response that we all have built into our brains to help us when we're in danger. It's why your first instinct is to swat the bee flying towards your head, and why, if we're being chased by a lion, you would take off running. And it's also responsible for the overwhelm and the shutdown we get when things seem too big and insurmountable. Now, these are all examples of survival mode. Let's talk about the brain, and more specifically, the nervous system. Our brains are built to follow 3 specific rules and to do them in this exact order. Rule number 1 is no dying. Your brain will always prioritize your safety. In fact, when it turns on survival mode, it will shut down the other areas of your brain, like your ability to think clearly and take action on anything that isn't life-threatening. Rule number 2 is no crying. Your brain's second job is to make you feel good, but it can't work on making you happy unless it feels safe first. This is the part that most of us struggle with. We often try to feel better by doing more, but it won't work if you're stuck in survival mode. And we often end up working twice as hard, but only getting half as far as our peers, which can make us feel left out and left behind, which can actually reactivate the survival brain. And this is a vicious cycle. Rule number 3, no dying. Again. Because if you aren't growing, you're dying. Growth is a fundamental human need. We all dream of bigger and better things, but if we are stuck in survival mode and our brain doesn't feel safe, it will engage the fight, flight, freeze response, no matter how badly we want that thing. And this is when we end up self-sabotaging with overthinking and we get stuck in analysis paralysis. So here's the really frustrating thing. Because our brain is programmed to keep you safe over anything else, it will actually choose a pain that it knows over anything new that it doesn't know. So even if that new thing is some awesome new goal or dream, your brain will get in your way. Now, that is why those warm, fuzzy, inspirational quotes on Instagram don't help. And why hearing those rags to riches stories can actually make things worse. Inspirational quotes can be helpful for people whose brains have already checked off rule number 1, no dying, because they feel safe. And more importantly, their nervous systems are regulated. So all they need is a little feel-good mojo to get going. But for the rest of us who are in freeze mode or who are overwhelmed easily, and if you find yourself overthinking everything, especially if you've experienced trauma of any kind, your nervous system is overloaded. So how do we fix that? The key to breaking free from analysis paralysis and to stop overthinking is to regulate your nervous system. Your nervous system is the interconnected series of billions of neural pathways that connect your brain to your body. And it processes anywhere from 11 to 200 million bits of information per second. And this is all happening in our unconscious and subconscious minds. Now, all of that overthinking and color-coded planning you've been doing is happening in your conscious mind, which can actually only process about 40 to 50 bits of information per second. So, when your nervous system is overloaded and stuck in survival mode, it is feeding all kinds of extra thoughts into your mind. And this is literally the definition of overthinking. You are thinking more than your mind has the capacity to handle. And this leads to analysis paralysis because our nervous system literally goes into freeze mode, even when the situation isn't actually life-threatening. The good news is there are some very simple exercises that you can do that work quickly to calm your nervous system and turn down the volume on overthinking. You can do them anytime, anywhere to immediately stop the freeze response as soon as you notice it and get out of analysis paralysis. The next video in this series will break those down for you, and I will share with you a few things that I do every single day to prevent my nervous system from going into survival mode.